Right, let's dive straight in then. It's going to be a 3-part series, this one is. The 12 Principles of Animation. And this will give you a really good platform, this will, to move forward with 3D animation. We're just going to explore all the principles and how you put them into practice. And even though we're only using simple rigs, all these can be related into full characters, full bodies, like bipedal characters, humans. Because all those principles relate to them exactly the same, which we'll explain more as we go. So let's just check everything here then. We've got our Epic pen. Screencast keys are working, which is great. You can see them down there. And this is our Animation Fundamentals rig. This is Didi. And what we're going to do in this first part, as I say, it's 3 parts. We're going to explore squash and stretch, anticipation, staging, and pose to pose / straight ahead animation, the first 4 principles. So without further ado, let's dive in and try and do something. So what I'm thinking, let's just turn our lights and camera off for now. This by the way is the default file, which you can download from Superhigh for $5. And this is how it comes. If you hit F12, you'll get a render of the character, a beauty render. But we're not too bothered about that for now. So let's just turn them lights and camera off. And let's try and create some simple little animation to explain these concepts. So what I'm thinking is if we add a cube, and what we'll do, we'll scale this cube up. Something along the lines of that. I'm just doing all this on the fly. I've got things in mind. We've got our cube. Control A, all transforms. What we could do usually with your master controller here, you'll set and forget that. So let's go into pose mode. Let's hit I, and bring up our summary there. You can see all our controls. We've set a key now there. You can actually press H and we'll hide that master controller. Set and forget, that's what you do with your master ruler. So if we grab our root controller there, we want to be in auto key, we get your auto key on, we'll bring this up. Turn our cube back on. We'll bring him, her, not sure what her, guess it's a her Didi. I should have added some lashes, but no, I might do that in an update. I'm going off piste a bit there. So we'll have our character on the edge there like that. So remember, we're exploring what we're doing. We're exploring the first 4 principles of the 12. We've got 1, squash and stretch. 2, anticipation. 3, staging. 4, straight ahead. And pose to pose. As I say, as we go, I'll explain them more. So what we're going to do, we're going to have this character drop down here and just settle. And we're going to incorporate all 4 of them first principles into that. So let's go into animation. Let's go into our lights and camera. What we'll do, we'll hide the lights for now. We don't really need that plane either. Grab the camera. Remember to come out of pose mode. Grab the camera, knock off your auto key if you don't really want to key the camera. And let's bring it out to set up some staging, some initial staging. And we'll just do it flat on to start with. We need to change to, I like to be in portrait mode for these because I put them onto Instagram. So that can be the initial staging, just the initial setup. I've nowhere to put this epic pen. Let's turn that off for now. Let's think about this animation. So, auto key back on. In Blender 5, they seem to have like 2 timelines. I think it's the, you got your timeline at the bottom. And they have your dope sheet there. Not sure why they've done that. I think we'll close that area. Just go into our timeline. That's how I like to work. I like to have a timeline there, my camera there, my 3D viewport there. So what we'll do then, we'll go into pose mode. Let's start animating. I to select all. We've inserted a key already. Don't need to worry about the length of this yet. Let's think about this Didi character going from there to there. So let's put it onto the edge to start with. It's right on the edge. And then what we need to think about first is our anticipation. Always be thinking about the movement. So if we go to, let's just go to, we're obviously going to adjust this timing as we go. I to select all, I to insert a key. Let's knock this back a little bit. We could also rotate back a little bit, couldn't we? There. If you hit your arrow key, you're flipping between your keys now. That's your up and down arrow key. There. Right. Up and down arrow. We've got our first pose. We're anticipating back. So moved back. Let's just go to 12. So we're just thinking about blocking timing at the moment. And what we'll do there, I like to key all the channels. Let's just move this to say there. So the character's come off the edge now. And it's rotated. Now working local, you won't get gimbal lock as much then if you're working local mode. So the character's come off the edge a bit. Let's just flip them keys, see what we got. Anticipate. Off the edge. And then it's going to come down, isn't it now? So already we've incorporated 2 principles of animation there. It's going to come down here. Let's just put it onto the floor for now. Let's not have any X rotation or any other rotation. I. You can also hit I here, all channels. So as I say already, we've incorporated 2 principles, look. Or 3, really. You've got anticipation, pose to pose, because that's a pose. The pose there and a pose at the bottom. And if you look in your other window there, you've got the initial staging. What people will see. So that's 3 principles. Already kind of like blocked. So let's just flip through again. It's going to hit the bottom. And obviously there's going to be some settle there. So we can kind of I mention that. Move our controller up a bit. I again, move to, actually I think we'll go for 4 for now. So 24, 28. Then you could copy and paste so you go back to there. But move it forward a bit. Are we working orthographically now? From a side view. To try and get the mechanics right. So up, down, and you could go I, key all your channels, up again, forward a touch, go to 40, I, and back down, 0, and we will actually add a bit more settle. I'm just trying to get that initial bit in. I move it forward a bit. So this will be very rough when we press play. And you want to be in 24 FPS. That's pretty much the going rate for film. But at the moment I'm working on Roblox animations. And they're actually in 30 frames a second, which I haven't worked on too often. But 24 FPS is the usual. So let's just press play and look at this rough animation then. So the character anticipates back and then comes forward. But obviously it's just so floaty and stuff, and the mechanics aren't right. But that's just the some initial poses. So what we can do now, we can start breaking this down more. So anticipating back and then coming forward. If you notice around 9 there, go AI, it's going through, isn't it? So now we're thinking about straight aheading stuff, not necessarily pose to pose. So let's just straight ahead that now, which is a 4th principle. So it doesn't cut through the thing, and then as it comes down here, it's moving forward a bit, so because he anticipated back, that created that tilt there, and then he's coming forward, it's tilting the other way, which is inertia. I don't know if I've spelled it correctly, but that's what it's known as. So it's going to drop quite fast off there. So let's think about another principle then. Squash and stretch. As it drops, always be looking in your camera view as well. Even though you're working the side, have a little look in your camera view. We could have some stretch, couldn't we? So, anticipate back, forward, and then some stretch. So rotate back, forward, and you could rotate back again. Create a bit of contrast. And I've changed the keys blender for some reason. You have to press the down arrow now to go up. Really can't understand why they've done that in Blender 5. So flip keys now. It's down arrow to go up instead of the up arrow to go up. So I like complicating things, Blender. So let's just press play. That's just really, the timing's just not too great, is it there? It's taking too long. So let's just try and go to 4 frames. So I think what we want to maybe hold that anticipation. And we'll tidy this up in the graph editor. So we could copy paste. So you hold that anticipation just a frame. And I think it does. Make sure you're hitting A when you move these keys. You move everything. So by moving that a frame later, feels better that. Not going off as fast, it's taking a little bit more time. So let's think about squash and stretch as we hit the bottom here. Well, when we hit the bottom, we want to squash this character. And you might be thinking, well, how does this relate to character animation? Well, this is a character. But if it was a human, let's try and just draw a front view. It'd squash like that. But as it was coming down here where we've got the stretch, the character would stretch, so stretch, and then squash. And it's relatable to heads as well. Like with a head turn, you may get a bit of a stretch in the head. And then a bit of squash in the head of a character. Like the mouth area might squash a bit. So that's how it relates to character. Full bipedal human characters, for example. So we're dropping down, so we've added some squash, haven't we there? And we'll tweak this in the graph editor when we polish. So squash. And as it comes back up, when it hits the top really, we don't want it squashing, we'll probably add a little bit of a straighter head. Stretch there. A little bit, just maybe a touch. Squash there. Then back up. Then very subtle squash. The main squash will be the initial hit. Obviously, if that was a bowling ball, there'd be different mechanics to it. We're trying to create this more organic, 'cause it's an organic character. If it was for example, a bowling ball, it'd just go bang. And there wouldn't be any settle as such, or very little settle. So let's just press play from the side. Obviously still looks a bit funky still. We're just building in the principles. And you'll always tweak your timing. That's going to be for a later lecture, but timing is important in any animation. So it still feels a bit fast there to me. So as it goes off the side, that's when it's got to really gain the momentum. So that's how you go about getting the poses blocked in and adjusting your timing. I'll keep saying this, always hit A. Make sure you're moving all your keys. Control S to save as well. Because if you just move, for example, if you're on that and you move the keys and you hit A, look how messy it is there. You've only moved the one control. So hit A and make sure you're moving all your controls when you adjust the timing. And what you can do is you can do this in the dope sheet as well, which I've started doing lately, as well as your timeline. You can move your keys in the dope sheet. But initially, I like to use the timeline. Right, time for a swig of tea. So you've got some initial timing in there. You've got our anticipation. Staging's linear at the moment. We've done a bit of straight ahead and pose to pose. Let's just keep playing that and analysing the timing. Let's we try a little bit faster, the timing. Still feels a little bit fast before it goes off the edge, so we could maybe slow that down. So you've got a little bit of slow and then fast. So you're creating contrast by doing that. That's slow and fast. So that's not bad for an initial timing pass. What we'll do, we'll go into the graph editor, the polish. But before we do that, I feel as if we need a bit more AI. As I keep saying, don't mention AI. It's took a lot of our jobs. We want some more stretch, don't we, there? Because the force, as it's going down, is making it stretch. Control S to save. So it comes off the side and really stretches there and then squashes. I think we need a bit of stretch there. What we could do, we could have a bit more bounce, couldn't we? We could come up a bit more initially. So up, down, up. I don't want to overcomplicate it and drag it on for ages. So 37 to 45, say, then bang in the middle, 41. AI again. Comes up a touch. So it's forward. And on the last one, not as much. And you could go another 4. I. Go up a touch very slightly. If you go into your Y and set that to 0 there, Move that forward a touch more. We'll clean that up in the graph editor, but let's just flip through the keys. Needs to move forward there. Forward there. No. Maybe not quite as much. And what we can do, freeze F3 and go to calculate motion path. You can see there what path it's taking. So let's just adjust the controls a bit. There. So it's the side arrows to go to the next frame, and the up and down to flip your keys. So it will come down pretty much linear on this. Let's just create a very subtle arc as it comes down. So let's really zoom into there now. So we go up, down, up, down, up, down, and then really just settle into that last one. Really, it may bounce out a little bit more than that. And that needs to be hitting the floor. You can see there, even though it's not perfect, you've got your arcs, haven't you? Now that we're not discussing the arcs per se kind of thing, but so there's your settle. And on that last one, it seems to go a bit too far there. Just bring it back a bit. Okay. So it'll be something along the lines of that. Comes to a bit of an abrupt end. But we can sort that in the graph editor. So I think we'll go into the graph editor now. We've blocked in quite a lot of this timing and poses. Control S to save. Pose, motion paths clear. I think what we'll do is try and set up a little bit better staging before we go into the graph editor. What we could do, we could grab our cam, one-hide that. Don't really need these ones I set up for the super hive. Let's just hide them for now. And grab our camera, come out of pose mode, grab your camera. Let's just try and think about a bit of better staging. So with staging, you look at that there. Linear, isn't it? It's not really that appealing. It's so flat. I try and aim for maybe a bit of perspective to it. So, and by adding some perspective to it, you got a bit better depth, which creates a better staging. What we'll do, let's just come out of auto key. Let's just have a little tweak around with this camera. I'm not sure if side view might. So when you move your camera there, you'll see it in your camera view there on your left. If you can't, you just go to View, Cameras, Set Active Object as Camera. View, Cameras. I want sort of a 3/4 view. Just a case of what you think looks good. We'll just leave it like that, I think, for now. Probably do a bit of tweaking on it. Let's just get it into the ballpark, as they say. And what we could do to add a bit more interest to it is go to Add Mesh Plane. Scale that plane out. And he's got something solid to fall onto, hasn't he then? You don't want to hit a tangent there. So maybe grab this camera again. And have it something along the lines of that. Wouldn't be too bad, would it? I'll probably tweak it a bit. I'll stop saying that word, tweak. We've got our name it tower and ground, and we'll just go with that for now. Not sure about the colour. We just set it to a. I'm just going to leave it as grey for now. Just leave it like that for now. Obviously we haven't got our lights on. So let's move into our graph editor then. Start doing some polish on this. When you move into your graph editor, you want to go to Only Selected Keyframe Handles and don't show the cursor. If you show that cursor, it confuses it because you've got blue curves. So I like to turn that off. So back into pose mode. Let's hide our scale and rotation just for now. And have a look at our location and what that's doing. Go into a side view. Turn off the camera for now. We're in a side view. We can see in our camera view there. Control S to save. So let's analyse this curve. Let's look at our Y location. So look, Y. So when you move that Y curve, you'll move it in your view. But let's just hide the others for now. And this is where the true animation begins, really. So let's look at our Y curve. As that character hits the floor, it's going to be a hard hit. So if you right click and go to handle type vector, you'll get a real hard bounce there in, because the force is coming down. So force, and it's reacting against the ground, so it's gonna be a hard hit, that is. So hits hard and then bounces back out. So slowing out, which we'll go into more depth in the next part. We're slowing out. You can always hit I and go to only selected channels and just sculpt the curve a little bit more to slow out a bit more. Comes down, bang, and then comes back out. And with this handle here, Control S to save, pull the handle so you get some more hang time. And then you could go to vector again for a hard hit. You can in fact do that on all of the ones when it hits the ground. It won't be quite as hard as the first one, because the momentum's come out of it a bit more. So sculpt the handles to be toned down a bit, and pull your handles there for some more hang time. We're pulling the handles there, more hang time. You can also right click and go to free, which means you can pull one side of the handle without affecting the other. I'm going to do an in-depth graph editor tutorial soon. So look at that pleasing curve. That's the kind of curve you want. Just add a little bit of variation to the handles or something like that. So that can be our Y. Let's look at our Z. And you can actually work with both of them if you hold Shift. You got both your curves then. So he's anticipating back. There's your Z. Right, Z. You move the curve, you move it back there. So I think copy paste that so it's quite stationary, or a tiny little moving hold. Moves back. Right click, handle type 3. You're moving both sides independently. So he's moved back. A little bit of an overshoot, and then gone forward. Gain the momentum forward. And he'll start falling off the edge there. He needs to go downwards a bit earlier, doesn't he there? So we go straight ahead there. Let's just check that we got our auto key back on. No. Make sure your auto key's back on when you're going back into doing some straight ahead. It stays on there. So all channels. Then zoom in. Starts to come down there. So now we're straight ahead in now. So that's the fourth principle. We had pose to pose where we blocked in the golden poses. Now we're straight ahead in it, where we're going from frame to frame, as it were. We'll polish that up a bit. So let's just analyse what we've got at the moment. Control S to save. If we keep looping it, and we look in our camera view there, let's keep it looping and keep looking. Have a swig of water. Just by adjusting them two curves, we've created quite a pleasing animation, even though it's far from perfect. It's got a bit of appeal to it, hasn't it? Because we've got the principles of animation, these four that we're exploring. Look, there's our anticipation, principle 2. As he comes off, there's principle 1, our stretch, squash and stretch, anticipation. We've got another principle there, if you look, staging, even though it's not perfect. There's some perspective to it, isn't there? Some depth. It's not flat. And finally, you can't really see it like the others, but we've done some straight ahead animation, didn't we? Along there, we straight aheaded it. We went from frame to frame. Remember, we went from 11, 12, 13, straight aheading. That's principle 4, straight ahead. And we also incorporated pose to pose when we blocked in the initial poses, like the starting pose, the anticipation, the hit. We went from pose to pose. So even though that needs some polish to be perfect, just by implementing them principles of animation and working with your curve, we've got an half decent animation on it already. And that's the way I like to work, exactly what I've just shown you. Tweaking the timing, trying to get it into the ballpark, and then polishing it in your graph editor. So for example here, your curve's weird, isn't it? So really zoom in, really go into your curve and start. If you're moving that there, but you don't want this bottom to move, as I say, you can set it to 3 and you can just move each side then. So it really comes, you're always looking in your camera view, your 3D viewport to see how things look, and always hit the space bar, keep playing the animation. So if we now look at the front, so that can be our, so all we done really on that Z, we never actually done a lot, really did we, on that Z one. So you can delete keys as well. You can delete these dots so it flows more. So let's look at this Z one now then, on the side. I mean really, it shouldn't come back in, but we've just created a subtle arc. But you haven't got to do that. All personal preference really. Let's look at this Z. So hits. It goes forward. It's going to keep going forward, isn't it? So why we blocked it in the timing, it'll keep moving forward. As it comes to a stop, you could copy, paste that key. Could really go in. And even though this is not a principle we're exploring in this lecture, slowing towards the end, it really comes to a pleasing stop, as it were. We're just moving the curve about to create that. Keep inserting keys. So comes to a stop a bit abruptly. You get the idea. So let's have a little look at our rotation channels now, and generally I go through most of the channels I do. And that's classed as your root, that is. If that was on a bipedal character, human, this ball would be your root there. Your root, or your hips. And that's the most important thing to get right first, is the hips and the root of a character. So let's look at our rotation channels then. What we got here? Look at your camera view, look at your viewport, zoom in. If you move that, you can see that it's controlling your X rotation. So instead of it coming to a dead stop, have a little bit of a moving hold and slow out a bit more. I to insert the key, you slow out a little bit more. Adjust your handles there. Something might not be working as you want it to. Adjust your, see there, it was a bit too potent, it come back, made it more subtle by adjusting the curve. So it goes off the edge and really gains momentum as it hits. As it hits, you could maybe gain a bit of forward rotation there. You're gaining a bit of forward rotation. And as it goes up, a bit of back rotation. So just creating a little bit of dirt as well you can on your rotation channels. You could go into your Y. You haven't really got much on that. But you could add just a touch. If you go into it and pull the knot, you can see what it's doing. That's your Y rotation. As it goes back, you could maybe just have a subtle bit of Y in there, and it overshoots and comes back out. Z, could we get anything on that? Maybe you could go back, so you could go to the side a little bit there. Instead of being dead linear, Would probably better that way. A little bit of side there as he comes forward. He could go the other way and just come out of it. So it's best just to, you don't have to always touch all your channels. It's best just to check them. See if you can get anything more in there. Just adding a little bit of dirt. What we call it in animation, just a bit of animation dirt. It goes back up, and as it goes back up, you can also change it in your viewport. You haven't exclusively got to work in the graph editor. You can switch between. As it comes down, it could go the other way. It's going, say, a slight tilt there, and then a slight tilt in the opposite direction. As it comes to a stop, just peters out. You can move your keys as well. If you hold X, don't press X because you'll delete it. When you see that, the 4 arrows, if you hold X, you can pull the thing so it arrives at a slightly different time to the others. Keep pressing play and analysing. So now we want to look at our squash and stretch, don't we? So let's look what we got. As it comes off here, we got our stretch. Stretching. A little bit of Z stretch. Stretching. I'm thinking maybe you should stretch a little bit later than that. So again, hold X, move it along. And that's where we should be really stretching the most. It's kind of like that place there. Really stretching there. And you might want to go back into your Y location and just move that down a bit more. So you're always adjusting stuff. That's already on the floor, but you can just go through it a touch. Leave it at 0 there, just you don't get any render issues. So you just got to be careful when you adjust stuff that you haven't. So we're coming down here. Come off the side. So that's where it should be stretching, really stretched. And it should be squashed. We need to bring that back one to get our squash. Let's just visually analyse it. You can turn off your controls as well if you want. Just go into your curve, adjust stuff. So, stretch, squash. So something like that. I'm going to go in and polish and adjust it. I might just adjust that so it's the Y's a bit more onto the towards the floor. Adjust the curve. Press space bar and see what you've got. And the timing could probably be tweaked a bit more, maybe lose minus a frame there. It happens quicker. So that's another polish thing. Tweak your curves. So that's the main bulk of the route in place. Let's just have a look at our scale as we go in through this section. Don't really want much. I'm just trying to think if there's any other little things you could add. Maybe as he comes off the... Maybe you could have a blink in there. So, you got this. I like to keep it simple really. Or you could have like maybe a little eye dart. As he moves through. Copy paste. And then copy paste there, then it moves back. Just a little eye dart, for example. Maybe move that forward a couple. So he moves back as he hits. And maybe you could possibly have a blink as he hits the floor. You could possibly have a blink in there. So hits the floor. Go to eye, all channels, hits the floor. There's your blink. Maybe do it over a few frames. Copy paste. So he's going, hit the floor. Trying to avoid it by not looking. Just a little blink. So I think what I'll do now is I think that's pretty much the bulk of the body mechanics in there. Probably needs a little bit more settle really. Just work on that section there. Just work on the scale a little bit. Should be chucking an eye dart in the end as well maybe. So maybe, I don't know, grab your eye control. And then the eye looks at you at the end. Maybe copy, paste, delete that so it happens over a couple of frames. It's usually 1 to 2 frames an eye dart. And then maybe hold the dart. Copy paste. You could possibly extend the timeline a little bit. So say 90. Holds the eye dart. Copy, paste. And then his eye goes back. But when it does go back, maybe go back to and see a bit more in your camera. Copy, paste. Or something along the lines of that. So what I'm going to do now, I'll go in and do a little bit of polish. I shall come back and just tell you what I want to finish off this first of 3 parts, exploring the first 4 principles of animation. I'll be back in a minute. Right, so I'm just going to bring you back for the end part then, to tell you what I've done. So all I've done really to this cube, I've just added a few extrusions, added a material, and then the lights that you get in your default file, I've deleted the backlight and just adjusted the values on these to remove the position a bit. Added the material to this plane I've created. There was one in the actual original file, but I created another one. Like an infinite background plane. Remember to right click and shade smooth. Added a bevel modifier to that. But the most important stuff, just turn off what I've done with the render. The most important stuff I've done really, if we play the animation, was just tweaked the timing more. It's the main stuff. And the curves. Pretty much what we've done in the lecture. So if you look at our X, Y and Z location, I've just tweaked these curves to make them more pleasing. And the stuff I'm not 100% happy with. Now I still feel this could be down a bit more before it goes into the squash. But, you know, you can't go on forever with it. So I tweaked them curves. I added a blink as he blinks. If you look at this curve here, there's more settle. So sort of still not perfect. There's a little bit more settle as he comes to a stop. You could probably add a bit more, but like I say, you can't keep going on in these tutorials. And I added, you can use that controller, I added a few eye darts in there as well. If you just with your X, Y, Z. So as he hits, his eyes just dart around, he looks around. And the timing on that. So I say the main thing I've done, I got rid of a frame. As I said previously. So he sort of goes off. And then he really gains momentum. around this section. There it goes off the edge and then really gains the momentum and the force towards the end before hitting. So that was the main things I've done on the polish pass. So I added some materials and just if you hit F12, make sure your lights and your camera are on and hit F12. And you'll just be able to get a, not perfect, but a bit of a rendering there. So obviously, as he hits there, you've got a bit of shadow in there, just to create a bit of depth. So what did we do then in this lecture? Well, we done what we said we was going to do, didn't we? We explored the first 4 principles of animation, which were squash and stretch, arcs, sorry, lost the plot there, squash and stretch, it's because it began with an I, that's why, anticipation, staging, straight ahead, and pose to pose. And we explored all of them concepts on this character. If you look at the animation, all them concepts are there. Obviously you can't create an animation without having timing and spacing and arcs and stuff, which you obviously need, but the main things we wanted to explore on this first part are those. If we quickly scrub through the animation frame by frame, there's your second principle, anticipation. There's your first principle, stretch. Squash. He might be squashed a bit too much, but like I say, you can't keep going on forever. There's your third principle, staging, by creating a bit of depth. So it's not linear. Then your fourth principle, you can't really see as such. If you remember during the lecture, we blocked in our golden poses, didn't we? Like there, and there, and there. And if you remember through frames sort of 11 to 14, we done some straight ahead stuff around there. So we had both straight ahead and pose to pose. So all in all, that's the first 4 principles of animation explained. In part 2, we'll be looking at the next 4, which I'll just say briefly now. We're going to be looking at overlap, slow in and out, arcs, and secondary action. So that'll be in part 2. So thanks for that, guys. And I'll see you on the next one.